So at this time, we are honored to have the TEDx Ashburn organizer, host, MC, curator, the man of many hats, one of which you already see on top of his head. Nick Savage is here with us. Nick, first and foremost, thank you for spending some time to talk with us today. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm just marvelous, you know. And for those who think this is just ego, this was a gift. This was a gift from Trinity. So just letting you know, I wear my hat. I do wear my name proudly, though. But anyway, good to see you,
Awesome.
Jordan.
No, that's beautiful.
Looking
Good to
forward to
see
it.
you too.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, Trinity, if you want to go ahead and start things off with a question for him,
Yeah,
fire away.
so I think we just wanted to know, what made you start TEDx Ashburn? I mean, I know you've been doing it for a few months now. What was your, initial thought process with TEDx?
Right. I mean, like I said, great question. Overall, we've started the TEDx. This is the third year for the whole series of Catch the Tail of Lightning, Igniting Change. I mean, essentially, this was started over 3 years ago, primarily because I thought one of the biggest challenges that we all face is one, having our voice. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, I had gone to a leadership workshop, a breakfast, and ironically, who was speaking was Ted Leonsis. And if you're familiar, is it you guys familiar with the name?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Mr. Leonsis he's one of the founders of AOL. He also owns the Capitol and the Wizards. And he was speaking, and one thing, his name is Ted too, which is ironic. I thought that was prophetic, and I'm a big person in discernment. And he said at the breakfast that morning, he said, everyone has a voice that wants to be heard. And that's one of the biggest things in life that I think most people have is, outside of, wealth and all those other aspirations, one of the biggest things I think that transcends is you want a voice. So I said, hey, I want to be a champion for those who have not had a chance to speak
Right.
and show that voice. Relevancy is the word he used. And the other thing is that also reinforces your own relevancy because you're championing those, your gifting. And that was always been that's been one of my aspirations, is to be that champion and gift people their dreams. So it's amazing the word I use. No, it's not a real word. I warn you guys. I call it metamorphosize, right? And whether you're dealing with sports or whether you're dealing, since I coach as well,
Mm-hmm.
and as you guys know, or whether you're dealing with the smaller things in life that become huge moments, there's nothing more priceless than watching a person go through that metamorphosis right in front of you. I mean, it's speech. You can, it leaves you speechless when you watch it. Whether it's that person that you see them come alive and come to life because of that moment. Whether it's my kids or you know you guys or something like that, where you watch a person have their coming of age
Right.
right in front of you. There's nothing like that. Can't buy it. There's no show like it.
Yeah.
So with regards to the TEDx
Mm-hmm.
Ashburn, I started the process, like I said, and why I started. I said, okay, now let's highlight a place that I've lived, the Loudoun County area, for over 25 years, almost 30 years. So that's wow. Okay. It's hard to believe since I'm only 28 years old, but right, right. So I said, let's highlight the different areas and the different people. And TEDx is one of those platforms that it's a grassroots, you know, organization representing that brand of TED at the local level, but it's independent. So you push. And lets me use my creativity at the same time, because I love production. I love telling stories. No one knows that. No one says I talk too much. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so well, with that, and I mean, I know you talked a lot about how important your community is to you, and just, like you said, helping bring out the best in that community. I mean, you've already done that a good bit, right? You've been an entrepreneur. You talked about coaching. Obviously, you've had a lot of champions in coaching, so you've seen people in the athletic world and outside the athletic world, especially the youth, kind of grow up, especially under your leadership. So, in terms of your legacy, not only just in the county where you are now, but maybe into the Virginia area, what exactly do you want to be remembered by in terms of that society that you're in?
Well, man, you killing me off already? I'm just starting.
Oh, I know, like you said, you're only 28. You're only 28.
Right. I got tons of time. Uh, no, that's what you always think about. And what's the legacy? I mean, essentially, since day one, what triggered me in all of this, it's usually, most people, it's always a defining moment. It's either a great moment or a bad moment. And in my case, I lost my dad when I was 26. And he was my best friend. And from that point forward, I was on the fast track at the time with IBM, and they wanted me to, move to Poughkeepsie and, do all these corporate great things, which I could see was separating me from, in some cases, my own people. But what I saw from that was that how great my dad was, and I wanted to gift that type of mentorship, either as being a father myself or mentoring others. Many people don't get that. They get that one question they ask, and automatically there's an automatic no in someone's head. Not enough people say yes on things that don't cost them much pain. So the legacy that I want to leave, either through the TEDx legacy that we create, already I'm seeing it, and I think you guys have been on some of the conference calls. When you hear individuals start to cry or start to get the shaky voice when they speak at the TED, or more importantly, the excitement that they feel that they're getting a new lease on life because they did this TEDx. I always say the person that helps the most is the person. I always get asked by the speakers or audience, who do you feel is affected by the TEDx talk or the TED talk the most? It's the person that spoke, because going from transactional, we all know it, we all have our gifts. And in America, we always just want to talk about what we can do, because that's kind of the habits that gets created in a transactional area, such as the DMV, where I live and Trinity lives, where we're in Washington D.C., where everything, yeah, this whole area is okay. What have you done for me lately? Where's my business card? Well, TEDx transcends that. So the legacy is to find that tribe that keeps that gift of giving continue on and on. The gift of giving continues long after you're gone, and you know it, because you start finding those tribal people that think the same, and they think transformationally. Don't get me wrong, it's not, kumbaya. They still have transactional maybe in mind later, but for the most part, you start trying to do things to raise people's awareness, science, mankind, all those cool things that have been around and make the U.S. special and make people special since they've been around. Because we're at a time now we need it more than ever, as far as I'm concerned. Um, so that's the legacy, basically, to champion people and keep the humanity side of human beings around. That's really it. Yeah.
I guess I have one question.
Yes.
Like what are you looking for in your end result for this new TEDx event for the middle compromising positions?
Oh, this is great. So for the viewers out there, is what we yeah, sometimes simple is better. And although, my wife would say simple-minded, that she'll call me, is not the goal. But in the series of these three for this year, going into next year, I said, I got it. Let's call the first one the first. The first dot impressions. So, people make that in first impression. What does it mean? What's your first thought? What's your first action? Well, this one, I said, okay. I didn't say, we are not going to call it the next. We're going to call it the middle compromising positions. Because what often, my wife and I, Miss Savage, we've been married for 31. I probably messed it up. I think 31 years. Yeah, it's 2019. 31 years together, 38 years. And first thing people ask me, ask us as a couple, or they ask me, say, what's the key to a happy marriage? They say, recognizing irreconcilable differences and how do you address them. But when you're married, you always compromising. That that I know you're not married yet, you guys, but you're compromising. That's normal, you know. Whether it's tallest seat up, tallest seat down, all those things, yeah, right. And then what you eat, when you eat, what time you eat. I'm a 6:30 guy. Let's shut it down. You know, no, I haven't eaten because it's 8 o'clock. We got to go eat. Something like that. That's compromise.
Mhm.
But more importantly, when you transcend that to everything, you're dealing with what about those things that always pull them between your heart and your head? That's another example. These situations with athletes, you're making money, but you're also busting up your body. I mean, I know that. You know that, Trinity. We're all athletes, former athletes. So, but you got the dream for the money, but at the same time, it's tearing you up. That's compromising position, and or jobs that take you away, and you make a lot of money, and you don't see your family. You
Right.
always have those things that are kind of a paradox, right?
Mhm.
And that's called adulting, right? How do you, right? I love that word, adulting. How do you address that? Well, that's what we're going to be dealing with in TEDx Ashburn salon event, where we've got all these folks, great speakers, great musicians, great artists, where we're dealing with the compromising positions of life from different perspectives. So, example would be who I'm talking with daily. She's going to have a great um, message, and that's Dear Irby. That's funny.
Mhm.
Most of Dear's name is Idea, right? Just take the I off. Uh, and Dear's going to talk about the magic of the meal. That's going to be real cool because we all know with fast food, uh, the some cases the Gen Z approach, right? What is a meal? Is it
Mhm.
looking at a phone and seeing a hamburger? Right?
Yeah.
Boomers don't get that. They're like, what? What are you talking about? That's not a meal.
Mhm.
Or the boomer or the generational view that we got to break bread. If I don't trust you, I won't give you my money until we sit and break bread. Well,
Mhm.
all those things, Dia's going to deal with that and address. And then we've got Pancho Brown, artist extraordinaire, who's been a brilliant artist for years. Pancho's going to have much to say through his paintings, in addition to his words, and a series of great speakers. Hunt Lyman, who's going to talk about grammar. Well, that's going to be interesting. Some of us don't even know what that is. uh, they see the word Grammarly on a commercial, and that's what that means to them, you know. So, and others, we had to sit in that kindergarten, at first grade, at second grade, at third grade, and go through all that.
Mhm.
Well, what does that mean? And Hunt, who's a linguist, he's going to share his brilliance there. But we've got who else do we have, Jordan? Do you have any other speakers that you had in mind?
So yeah, I know obviously Ken's going to be part of it, and he's probably going to talk about just his coming up, you know, dropping out through high school and then coming back and then going through the successes that he did, going to Berkeley and then obviously into the NFL. So there's his side of it too as well. You know, we have some speakers that are going to talk about their accomplishments in medicine. So I mean, and you know, that's
Right.
incredible because I mean, even to me, when I think about compromising positions and the different speakers that we have, because it's like you said, there are so many different aspects of life that are in this.
Right.
And I've
Right.
always been, I'm kind of intrigued too in terms of how did you come about getting all these different speakers or thinking about all these different speakers to cover these different aspects of life?
Well, that's one thing. That's where my dad comes in, and that upbringing of my dad and my mom. Hey, fearless. You know, what's no? Okay. I have some business development in me too. But for the most part, you got to put the ego aside. I'll ask anybody, you know, I'm one of those guys, you know, uh, as Trinity knows as well. I, hey, I won't turn down a free meal. I might walk up to a stranger and say, "Can I have a piece of that?" If it looks good, you know, I'll take the food. And so whether it's asking someone for something, you know, my grandfather actually said something. He started laughing. You know, I've been raised middle class. That's something else, you know, that we got to talk about.
Mhm.
That middle class, we got so much baggage, you know, of just what everyone else defines middle class to be,
Mhm.
instead of us just going and get it, you know. Uh, Poor folks usually, like, they don't have time, you know. There's no self-actualization. They're surviving. And most rich folks I know, they're trying to hold on to what they got. But the middle, we sit there, what do people think about me? Do they like me? Do I feel good? No. So when I talked to my grandfather once, he started laughing at me because I'd walked up at the time. You guys may not even know Michael Douglas, the actor. Well, his dad is Kirk Douglas, the legend, who's still alive. I mean, Kirk Douglas has got to be now. If he's not 100, he's got to be right there. But that's Spartacus, you know. I Am Spartacus and all the great movies that Kirk Douglas was in. And one day I had to approach him. I said, "Hey, can we work together?" And my grandfather's like, "You did what?" And that's from his generation. So he's like, "You just walked up and asked him." But that's the courage that our family gave us. Now they may not have it, but they gift it to you to go out and do it, even if they don't believe it's going to happen, right? So that's some of the things we want to address too as well. But that basically is where that drive comes from, to do that ask. Uh, what's the worst thing that happens? They say no, right? But you always have at one or two situations, right, that the next thing you know, you're making something great happen because, once again, someone said yes. If you don't practice, my philosophy is try to practice what you believe in so it can actualize. So if you don't believe that a yes is possible, you never find out, and you just continue to live in the middle between your ears, and there's nothing going on. That's not living. That's thinking about living. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that's pretty good. Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
Okay. All right. So, Trini, you can